Good evening and welcome to Live to Be Well. I'm your host, Dr. Kim Logan-Nowlin. Call a friend, tell someone we're on the air, and we are all about Live to Be Well. What is Live to Be Well? Well, mind, body, and soul. How we pull it all together so that you will live to be well. A lot's been going on in our community, and I'm going to bring ML6 in to talk about some of the things that's been going on in LA, where she lives, and also the shooting of the two state representatives that were killed in Minnesota, and also the two representatives that were wounded. And we want to talk about State Representative Melissa Hortman, the Hortman family. Our prayers are going out to the Hortman family in Minnesota, and also the Senator John Hoffman and his wife who were wounded in their home. And it's terrible that you can't even go to your front door and answer your door because it is so dangerous in the times that we're living in. And this man, by the name of Vance Butler, the suspect in the shooting of two Democratic Minnesota lawmakers and their spouses, he was arrested Sunday. So they did capture him. But nevertheless, two people lost their lives, lawmakers who were doing something for our country. So let's keep them in prayer as their families and their children in prayer. Be careful when you are going out and about. Be careful at the gas stations, at the grocery stores, wherever you go. Please, check your peripheral vision. Check around you. Try not to go out at night to get your gas. Do shopping. Have someone with you if you can. It's safety in numbers. So let's be mindful. Let's keep praying for one another in the times that we're living in. I'm not asking you to be afraid, lock yourself in the house. I'm not asking you to do that. I can't do that. I'm trying to make sure I take every precaution to be safety, to be safe and to live to be well. So that's what I want to give you tonight, to be safe and live to be well. Well, we're going to get into some things that's been going on in Los Angeles. ML6, come on in.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, honey, how are you?
I'm okay. Thank you.
Good. What's been going on in LA?
So to be clear, I know there's a lot of pictures that are out and there are a lot of things that are being said, but the protests, I live downtown LA, and when the protests were going on initially, I didn't even know that they were going on. That's how peaceful they were. They didn't become unpeaceful until the administration got involved. The looting didn't start from the protesters. The looting started with people that were just taking advantage of the situation. There were different areas around the downtown area that were being looted, but the protests themselves, to be very clear, were peaceful until this administration got involved.
Mhm.
Um, some may know, some may not know, but the administration's goal is to get 3,000 people a day to capture three. ISIS mission is to capture 3,000 people a day. This administration lied during the polling and all of those things and said that they were going after criminals. Well, that's not the case. The reality of the situation is that they were, and I mean the others, were concerned that they were becoming a minority in America and that the Latino Hispanic community were becoming the majority. And they couldn't have that. They can't have that.
Mhm.
So the goal in place is to get rid of them. It's not about the criminals. It's about the taxpayers. It is about the ones that pick our crops, the ones that build our homes, the ones that clean our homes, the ones that, wash our cars, the ones that do the everyday work that really keep America running. They don't care about that because of the color of their skin, because they're afraid that they'll become the majority. I mean, the other situation is this land was never their land, right?
Mhm.
They're angry about that. So they come to LA because this administration, one, does not like our governor because he is an intelligent, and to be honest, he's more attractive than the current president. Number two, we have a black female mayor, and she's getting a lot of pushback in a lot of areas, not because she's black, but because she's a woman. We know how, these people feel about black women. And so, they try to get the LAPD involved. The issue with the LAPD is they're not the best either, to be perfectly honest, because even on this past Saturday at the No Kings March, all around the country, it was about 12.1 million people in total across America that were in solidarity against this administration. And for every reason, it was posted that LA was the one that had the issue, when that wasn't the case. Everything was fine until the police officers and the Marines that the administration brought in from the California National Guard. They came in and started doing tear gas and pellets and all of that to the protesters. And of course, that's going to cause a reaction. Excuse me, but prior to, everything was perfectly fine on Saturday here in LA. So I know that the pictures can be deceiving. I know for people who don't live in LA, you're like, oh my goodness, it's horrible here. It's not. There is a curfew that's in place, but the curfew that's in place is only for like a 3-block radius. And it's only for a certain section of downtown. I know this because last night I left after the curfew time and I actually had to come back after curfew time and I didn't have a problem. However, I did make sure that I had, a bill in my purse, my license and all of that just to be safe. But I didn't have any issues. Instead of going to one freeway that I usually go home, I went to another one and I was perfectly fine. The rest of us at whole is moving about perfectly fine. We're not the problem here. The problem is that this administration is evil and twisted. And because so much of the culture is the Hispanic community here in LA, it's so sad to see, like the Santa Alley Mom, where we go, when you come here,
Mm-hmm.
it's so quiet. Like nobody's out. The taco trucks, at night, there could be up to 5 or 6 taco trucks on my street alone, maybe one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just very here. You don't know the fruit people that are on the corner with the really good fruit. I'm always trying to get you to eat. Very few and far in between because they're terrified and they're scared. And the reality situation is they're not just taking undocumented people. They're not even asking people for their papers. If you are brown, they're coming for you because they have to meet their quota for the day, which is 3,000 people a day.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're targeting all Democratic states because he's a child, and because he throws tantrums, and because his birthday celebration did not go the way in which he wanted to. More people protested against him that were for him, and even the United States Army. For those people who were watching, if you did see clips from the parade that was supposed to be in celebration of the 250 years of the Army, which was really a celebration for his birthday. And if you saw the military, they weren't marching in unison, and people were like, "What's going on?" That was a silent protest. But he's too stupid to understand that that's what that was. And now when he finally found out, now it's the whole thing. And now, currently, as we're speaking, there's a possibility that we could be going to war with Iran, which is absolutely insane. But I know we were talking about LA, but this thing has such a domino effect.
Right, right.
You're so worried. America was so worried about a woman being overly emotional when we have this clown in office who is actually extremely emotional and throws tantrums in the middle of the night. And he loves to talk on Truth Social and write paragraphs of what he's going to do and how he's going to do it. And the puppets behind him are the masterminds, and he's the face of it. But there are these powerful men that are behind him that wrote Project 2025, and they knew that America would be stupid enough. They put it's like giving a class the cheat sheet, and they still failed, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what they did, unfortunately. Even despite the fact that it can be proven 10 times over, if we wanted it to be proven that they did cheat, this administration did cheat to get the election. The reality situation is too many people did go out and vote, and too many people did not go out and vote for this administration. So here we are in a state. I'm in California, and these folks are not coming out. And people aren't getting their lawns mowed. You can't find a nanny. It's getting bad out here. Like our everyday lives are being affected by this. And what's really unfortunate about all of this is a lot of the Hispanic community, unfortunately, they voted against their own interests because they want to be accepted in the white community. And what they fail to understand is they will never be accepted in the white community. They are brown people, and they are not accepted by
Right.
that level of whiteness. And for whatever reason, they look at black people like we're the ones that are beneath. At the same time, you have a lot of them like, why are we helping them? No, we did help you. 92% went out and voted for your interests. 92% for your entry, whereas it was 50+% of Hispanic men voted for Trump, and I think like 46 total Hispanic voted for Trump. It was insane.
Mm.
He lied to them, and they believed it, and now they're like, "Oh, this
Oh,
is what we voted for." Actually, this is exactly what you voted for.
that's exactly what you voted for.
Voted for.
My goodness.
Where we are, and it's just really unfortunate. And they're supposed to be here for 30 days. So we got a long way to go with ICE being in Los Angeles. And it's really interesting because Christy Holmes, the overseer of all of this, she was rushed to the hospital today. I don't know
Mm.
what's going on with that, but it'll be interesting if she has a doctor who's a minority. That has to be one that has to make sure that she's okay and that she walks out of.
Mhm.
It'll be
Mhm.
interesting, but you know, that's just where we are. So that's my 2 cents.
I appreciate that. That was more than 2 cents. And this is why we have Micah ML6, who does a great job, on radio in the community in Huntsville, LA. But Micah, you failed to tell us some good news that happened with you also. Can you share a little bit about your good news and your nomination?
What are you talking about? I was nominated for 2 Stellar Gospel Radio Awards. So the Stellar Awards are this August in Nashville, Tennessee, and this is my first time being in this space. My radio station is nominated for Medium Market Radio Station of the Year. So I want to send a thank you out to each and every person that voted for me. If my mother grabbed your phone and told you vote for my daughter and you did it, thank you without looking at her crazy or snatching your phone back. I appreciate it. And the Radio Announcer of the Year award, I had no idea that I was even up for that. That was something that my colleagues in the industry, they nominated me for that. So it's really an honor and a blessing. I had a goal to be in this situation within 5 years of being the program director and being the on-air talent, the midday on-air talent for Worship 94.5 in Huntsville, and to see it happen within 4. God is truly amazing to be nominated amongst my peers and in this space of gospel music. I know there's been a lot of controversy within the gospel music space, but I like to ask certain people, like, you have a lot to say about gospel music, but do you support your local gospel radio stations? Because these artists need support and they need you to stream their new music. Like, it's great that we have all the old hits, and those are great. Everybody loves Wild Gospel 98. That was like a classic album.
Classic, classic.
Of these artists, like for instance, Fred Hammond, him and a few members from the commission group, they call it FKM. They have a whole new project. They had a single that went #1 called Change Your Mind. They're also nominated for Sellers. But Sean Mitchell has a brand new single that's in the charts. You have Pastor Mike Jr. Yolanda Adams has a brand new single called Blessings. That's amazing. She has a whole album. You have artists like Nia Allen, who's a new artist in this space. You have Adia. There's so many great artists in this space. And if you like choir music, look up Josh Bracey. He has a song called Favor Everywhere. It's like good downhole clap. Like it's so amazing, these new gospel artists. And so it hurts my heart when people be like, oh, gospel not what it is. When is the last time you really tapped in to your local gospel radio station? And so I am happy in this space. I'm happy to share, new artists that are doing things, our seasoned artists that are doing things. Like, the Clark sisters were just with Solange recently, and Solange was telling them like, oh, she listens to the Clark sisters on good days and bad days. She thanked her pastor. I know oftentimes we get kind of confused on so much where certain people are and with their faith and this and other thing, but you will really be surprised who listens to gospel music and who puts it forward. Do I agree with what happened at the BET Awards? Absolutely not. However, however, that there's been 1 or 2 times where a non-gospel artist has won that award, but every other time a gospel artist has won that award. We as a community, if you are faith-based, support your local gospel radio station. Listen and stream these artists. It is really, really important. And so that's just my 2 cents on that. But thank you to everyone that voted for me, and just keep me in our radio station in Huntsville in prayer.
Thank you so much. I'm so proud. I will be attending the Stellar Awards. Get your ticket and be in Nashville, Tennessee. What's the date, Micah, for the Stellar Award?
The Stellar Awards itself are August 16th. And you can get if you are interested in coming to this year's Stellar Awards, it's open to the public. You can get your tickets at thestellarawards.com. Again, that's thestellarawards.com if you are interested in getting your tickets. Now, my category will be on the day before, on the 15th. They do the radio awards during the pre-show, which is fine. But yeah, it's gonna be a great weekend. It's gonna be a great weekend, and
Well, I'm excited. Congratulations, dear heart.
thank
Well, we're about to get into our topic. Hey, Foxy Brown, God bless you. So good. Yes, he says congratulations to you, Micah.
thank
Yes, yes. We're going, all right, Catherine. Thank you, Catherine. Oh, bless your heart. All right. Yes. We appreciate all of you that are viewing, and we're getting ready to get into some heavy information here. Daddy was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. He got it in his adult life. And he was not feeling well, went to the doctors, and he found out he had diabetes, Micah. So let's talk about what is diabetes. It is a condition. And our topic tonight is minding diabetes dilemma. We are in a dilemma. I got my glasses. I'm ready. You ready? I knew, did you see her, Al? She was getting ready to go in on me. All right, Foxy, she was about to go in, but I had my glasses on. Okay. Now, diabetes is a condition that happens when your blood sugar glucose is too high. It develops when your pancreas doesn't make enough insulin or any at all, or when your body isn't responding to the effects of insulin properly. Diabetes affects people of all ages. Most forms of diabetes are chronic, lifelong, and all forms are manageable with medication and or lifestyle changes. See, that's the issue with anything that we're going through in our lives. You must make some lifestyle changes. So I'm not going to get into too much of this because I'm not an expert in this area. However, I've been doing my homework in this area, reading more about it because I have a good friend who's going to join us tonight, and he is Mark Brezzel. Come on in, Mark. We are so happy to have him, and he's written a phenomenal book. He is an expert in the field, and he is going to walk us through his own personal story and how to help us. So let's welcome Mark Brezell. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing wonderful. Yourself?
I am good. Micah ML6 and I, we are very happy to have you. So we are excited. So, Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are? How did you come to be a part of this? And tell us your story, all right?
All right. First of all give you my background. Um, I'm a, my background clinically. I was trained as a clinical cardiovascular perfusionist, and basically I did cardiac surgery for 10 years prior to, actually during my diagnosis. And I'll tell you what's interesting about this. When I was in a hospital, I'm no longer in a hospital now. I'm in industry. But when I was in the hospital, the irony of all this, I had gotten married roughly around 99, around 2000. And 6 months into my marriage, I started noticing some weird stuff. Now, the irony of that is a year prior, I was approached by one of our anesthesiologists, and they were like, "Hey, we want to do some things around diabetes, for patients undergoing, heart, basically cardiopulmonary bypass. And can you help me let's put together a protocol that will help to improve outcomes of patients, doing this." So it was pretty good opportunity. We were involved in that, doing this thing, and when I got married, within 6 months of my marriage, I started noticing weird stuff happening. My clothes got a little bit bigger. I was a very active guy at that time. I was a bike. I enjoyed riding my bike, and I just noticing that I was starting to lose weight. Couldn't understand it. I thought I just attributed to my active lifestyle at that time. I watched what I eat. I tried to be healthy, but it just started to progress and went from there. I started getting a little bit tired. I remember one time I was late. I was taking a nap, and I jumped up to answer the phone, and my eyes, my vision, they got blurry. I'm trying to figure out you know. It's so interesting that I was too close to the situation because I was doing work, around diabetes, but I never ever thought I would come down with diabetes, So that wasn't even part of my thought process, even though I was starting to exhibit classical symptoms. And it wasn't until I was pretty much down to, I had basically a lot of things. I drank pop crazy. My appetite, I ate like a horse, but didn't gain any weight. I said, hey, this is not bad. But when I started having the last symptoms, which was frequent urination, I was coming back home from the hospital, and I'm like, man, I just left the hospital. I gotta go bathroom already, and I rushed home. That's when it began to dawn on me. I'm thinking, wait a minute, this couldn't be. And so on my way home, I went by a drugstore and bought me one of those over-the-counter glucose tests, and that sucker came back positive, and I was floored. I couldn't believe it.
Mhm.
And as a result of that, I went and got it confirmed. And sure enough, I was initially diagnosed as type 2, but I probably actually was going, down into type 1 because my type 2, they initially put me on medication. They tried to, I tried to even, offset that with exercise, but my numbers weren't really, this wasn't impacted. I was still having higher levels. And then as I was getting checked out every few weeks, there's a test that they run to determine if your pancreas is functioning or not. And the numbers started going down, 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 down to a point where eventually I was diagnosed as type 1.
Mhm.
And it happened in a very, very, very short period of time, which is pretty, I won't say rare, but it's somewhat unusual
Mhm.
that I transitioned from type 2 to type 1. I probably was misdiagnosed, but that was the diagnosis that was given to me.
Wow.
And from there, I've been insulin dependent, and it's going on now 25 years as a
Okay.
type 1 diabetic. And I've decided that, and the reason why I decided to write a book is because within the last year or so, it's like everybody I talk to know somebody or they have typed it. I've had friends and a couple of family members that have had really critical challenges. My brother-in-law, he's having problems with his kidneys, and he's in acute, kidney, failure. He's on dialysis, and I had another friend, same thing. He was just, hospitalized for a few days and put on a strict diet and a regimen. And he said, I had no clue. But thankful recovering. Where for me, I caught it so early in the process that I didn't have any systemic challenges as a result of it. It was just more so now I have to manage it. So it's something that really it caught me by surprise. That's why I wrote this book. That matter of the heart. My unexpected journey. My journey was truly unexpected. Sometimes when you too focused into a situation, it could be obvious to everybody else, but you. And for
Mhm.
me, even though I was a clinician, even though I understood, the pathophysiology of diabetes, that was so far in the back of my mind that that mentally I'm thinking that couldn't be the reason, but that's definitely the reason. And I decided because now it seems like more and more, episodes of diabetes is being manifested, and I said, you know what? There's a lot that we don't know, and this is a condition. Why aren't they talking about this more, particularly in
Mhm.
our community? And I think it's
Mhm.
critically important for us to be aware of the symptoms, to be aware that if you see something that's not, that's out of the ordinary, get it checked out. And that was my thing. I just I would have gotten it checked out sooner, but it just in my mind it couldn't be that. Something else, something else, something else. But when it
Mhm.
finally came down to it, when I started going through checking all the boxes, then it became painfully obvious to me that this is
Mhm.
what's going on. And I actually diagnosed myself, and it was very traumatic for me. So
Let me ask.
that's how it began.
I appreciate that, transparency, and that's what we need. Why isn't it being talked about in our communities? And number two, there are two different types of insulin. You can take it through still to giving yourself the shot or the pill. Is that correct?
Yes, they do have a pill. And then even with the insulins, there's different types of insulin. You have fast acting and short acting. And that's just crafted around depending on, your course of presentation of symptoms. Some people, you need to have a fast acting so you can eat, if you eat it, let's say you eat a sandwich or you immediately, you need the fast acting, kind of drop the sugar. But then you need, if your pancreas is not functioning very well at all, or if you have no, pancreatic function, and you're not producing a lot of insulin, like at type 1, then they have to give you a low dose of insulin that basically has a long half life. Over so basically overnight you can go to bed, and if you ate something or whatever, your sugar still continue to be maintained as a result of that. And so you have that, and yes, they're having pills. There's actually nasal insulin. That's what they're working on now, where you can inhale it. And for me, I have to take short acting whenever I eat, and then I have a long acting before I go to bed at night, and that's how I manage my diabetes. The blessing here,
Yes.
I guess, to sum to sum all that up, is that after 25 years, my hemoglobin A1C, which is a test that they give you to measure to determine how is your blood levels going, or over a course of 3 months. And so they able to measure were your sugar too high, was it too low, or did you have it in a good range? And that's what they use to kind of that's kind of a barometer. And the reason why I throw that out there is because if you go to the doctor and they tell you, well, your A1C levels are high, over 7.5, or some people, that means that you are diabetic, and you need to get on some sort of regimen. But the problem that we deal with is that so many of us, our doctors, our urgent care, or the ER. That's the problem. You're not being followed by a regular specialist, or not even special, but even a general practitioner. So many times when people present with these symptoms, they don't know that they even have them. They just started having some of these weird things going on. Some people blow it off. Like I could have blew it off, but I knew after I started going down the chart, I began to recognize what was going on. But a lot of people, you just blow it off. I get tired all the time. Well, I compensate. I take vitamins. I get out and run or work out, or you start having other manifestations, and you just blow it off. It's not a big deal. That's just something that you learn to live with. But unfortunately, diabetes is not something that you want to just learn to live with without being under medication and under the care of a physician.
Oh, and, Mike, you have a question?
Um, so often for men, you are a rare breed to talk about, your health and even getting on top of your health, so forth and
Yes.
so on. What would you say if you were in a room right now
Hmm.
full of men? This is a
Hmm.
two-part question. What would you say to a room full of men?
Hmm.
You're looking at these men and they ain't been to the doctor, right? What would you say to them in like two sentences? That's the first question, okay?
Hmm.
The second question is, what would you say to a room full of women
Mm.
trying to get their husbands, brothers, fathers, and or sons to go to the doctor, but they cannot get them to go because they're too stubborn, in three sentences? Go.
So the first question, me in a room full of men, which actually happened a couple of months ago, I would tell them that your health is your best asset, and
Mm.
diabetes is a silent killer if you
Mm.
don't pay attention to it. Do you want to live? Do you want
Mm.
to see your grandkids? Do you want to see your great grandkids? Do you want to walk your daughter down? I put it to a more practical sense. This stuff is dangerous if you don't watch it and take care of it. It doesn't play. And the problem is that, again, what you just said, the way it manifests itself. Many people, you have hypertension. They tell you, take pills for high blood pressure. If you have cancer, they try to treat you for that. But diabetes is kind of in the background. It's silent. You're thinking, well, I'm fine, and I don't think it's necessary for me to be that vigilant. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes. I'm sorry, it wasn't 2 sentences.
No,
So,
I wasn't being serious about the two sentences.
and then a room full of women, I tell them that the same thing. I said, listen, it's a matter of love. If they love you, you tell them, listen, I need you to get checked out. If you want us to spend the rest of our lives together, I want to spend my time with you. And this is something, too many people, it's almost 2 degrees of separation anymore. Everybody's starting to know somebody that has diabetes, and it starts in your family, whether it's your family, whether it's your coworkers, whether it's whoever you hang out with, when you're working out, or someone you may meet in the store. It is becoming so prevalent,
Mm.
and yet we still don't talk about it. And then for us as African Americans, my goodness, we're at the top of the tier. I got some other things I could share, but I'll just be specific to the question you asked.
Did we answer the question about you in a room full of women?
No,
How
he
do
did. He did. He said he would say the same thing, and it's an act of love. He said that.
and answer the okay? I have a question.
Yes,
Children,
ma'am.
you have children,
Yeah,
little babies, infants, and I'm a mother. I'm a father. I'm
yeah.
scared. To
Hmm.
I've got to have this baby have shots every day. How do I do this and watch my baby go through so much pain?
It's difficult. It's one of the. I think the resolution. This is what hit me when you type 2 diabetes, as you talked about earlier, is something that can be managed very easily. When I say easily, by diet, by exercise, and that sort of thing. And you still have some pancreatic function as a type 2 diabetic. You
Mhm.
basically, they call it insulin resistance, where your
Mhm.
body is resistant to the insulin, so it's not pushing the sugar into the cells that your body needs, and so you're having, that's why your sugars are high. But a type 1 is the exact opposite. Your body, it's an autoimmune reaction where your body destroyed your pancreas. Your body destroyed the cells that release insulin into your system. So now you have to be artificially, supported through insulin. That's why you have to take it internally. You have to, whether it's injection. Now they have little pumps that they're using, that they're starting to run some tests on, particularly for young pediatric patients. But right now, men, that you can get pumps, and it's difficult. Yes, it is very difficult, because that's one of, you are a mental health clinician. This is one of the challenges, and that really taxes us mentally, is the fact that you have a condition that you have to manage every single day. And you could be perfect 6 days. One day you could be off, and that one day you could actually have a life-threatening situation.
That's
That
right.
carries a great deal of stress.
Yes. Yes. I was reading about type 3 diabetes. Okay. They say this form of diabetes happens when your pancreas experiences damage other than the autoimmune damage,
Correct. Yeah.
affects its ability to produce insulin.
Right.
Let's talk about that. I didn't even know about
Well,
diabetes type 3C.
that's what basically, like you said, all that is. There's multiple things. You can have a car accident and damage your pancreas. You can take drugs, and damage your pancreas. Even there's hormonal drugs. There's a lot of different types of medications that you can take that can damage your pancreas. So yes, there are what other ways that you can become a diabetic. Not nearly as common. The majority these are more rarity. Not very. They don't happen very often, where you may have a reaction to a drug. That actually would happen with my brother. My brother was in the military, and he suffered a muscle injury, and they put him on corticosteroid. And within 3 weeks, he he was in the hospital with high
Mhm.
blood sugar, because the medication that he took completely knocked out his pancreas. So yes, that can happen.
So this is not something that, I mean, you can be born with it, you can acquire it, and then you can get it
Yes.
during your adult life.
Yeah, and what's interesting about the being born with it, or even having the genetic propensity for it, there's it for me, when you think about the cause, many things they don't understand the cause of. That's why it's called essential hypertension. They don't know what causes it. There's factors that you may have. There's subs there's things that can contribute, where it could be from this, could be from that, but no doctor can tell you the reason why you have this is because of this. So it's all within a spectrum. What's interesting about all this for me, I just think that diet has such a critical component to all of this. The way our diets are now, many of the foods that we're eating is genetically engineered. Many of the foods that we're eating, they're having us eat stuff that they haven't really tested long term.
Mhm.
And so, it's kind of weird. And type 1 diabetes has been attributed to a protein in cow's milk, which everybody, you're young, you drink milk. until you transition to some of the, the almond milk and the oatmeal milks and soy milks, that sort of thing. But back in our day, you grew up drinking milk,
Milk,
and
not
and
milk,
and
milk.
and they think that there was a protein, in there that somehow it was causing a short circuit in your genetics that may, make you a precursor to things down the road. So I mean, there's so many things that can impact our systems because our body is so synergistic, and that's another challenge that I have with people is that when I educate them on diabetes, I want them to understand that you can't treat one thing. Your body is a total system, and from head to toe, you are a finely tuned machine. And when one thing gets out of whack, it kind of impacts the entire system, and that's the way diabetes is. Because once your sugars is too high, then your body is the reason why you have frequent urination is because your body's trying to flush the excess sugar. It's trying to get the sugar down by itself. That will put stress on your kidneys. And so everything kind of works in tandem. And same thing with the pancreas. Type 2 diabetes. The reason why you have to control it, and a lot of people have complications down the road. In fact, I dare to say that most people, I don't say most people, type 2 diabetes, I should say, is the most common cause of long-term complications because you're not on medication, you're not watching your sugars tightly, or for those who aren't doing that, and now you allowing your sugars to stay higher than you should. You don't really test your sugar because you're controlling it by diet or exercise. You're not really paying as much attention, and you're weakening your vessels. Your vessels are weakened by high levels of sugar, can cause damage within your endothelial linings of your blood vessels. All that stuff creates long-term problems, and that's why for us as blacks, particularly as African Americans, type 2 diabetes, many times we go to the doctor and all of a sudden you've been living with sugar levels that's been maybe 300 for months, maybe even a year. All this is causing a breakdown in your system without you even knowing it. And that's why, unfortunately, many people who present end up in a hospital because they're now dealing with all of these symptoms, and they found out that your blood sugar may be 500, 400, something like
Oh
that.
my.
And,
What
and we've
I
seen it.
have a question. What are
Yes.
some things that you used to eat that you don't eat anymore that you do actually miss, like real talk miss?
Um, I one one of the things that I used to drink all the time, and actually I know how to manage it now, so I do take it in. But I used to drink milkshakes. Milkshakes. I love me a milkshake. Chocolate on a not hot summer day. Go to the ice cream store and I pile some milkshake, and then on top of that, I eat some cake with it. Just load it up. It was good stuff. But I one time I went to the store and I drank a milkshake. I started getting a headache. I'm like, uh-oh. And I went home and checked my sugar. This is before all these monitoring, glucose monitors that they have. And I went home, my sugar was like through the roof. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I had to get it back down. So yes, these are the types of foods that, you want to try to not to eat foods that will spike your sugar. You want foods that will cause a slow, gradual increase of your sugar as opposed to spiking, and now you're trying to chase it back down because you keep going up and down, up and down, up and down. That can have some long term effects if you're not careful.
I was watching the movie The Godfather,
Hmm.
and I saw when Al Pacino was talking to the Pope, and
Hmm.
he kind of lost his balance.
Hmm.
And he said, I need sugar, I need sugar. And he went and got him candy bars and orange juice, and he was eating it real fast because
Hmm.
he was a diabetic and he needed sugar,
Yeah.
you know, and he had to eat it in order to get. And then once he sat down, he ate
Hmm.
the candy bars, drank the orange juice,
Hmm. Hmm.
able to compose himself.
Hmm. Hmm.
I tell you, when I saw that, I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
And that was many, many years ago when I watched The God. Yeah, I watched The Godfather.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it opened my eyes about diabetes and what
Yes.
he was experiencing. So, what happens in that situation?
When my sugar is dipped, when it's low, hypoglycemia, is exactly that. Many times I work from home, and so sometimes I get so fixated focus. This is before I got my glucose monitor, and I'll tell you about that experience in a minute. But um, what happens is, as your sugar starts getting low, you start having symptoms. Your brain starts to slow down because your brain needs sugar for metabolism. And so, if the cells in your brain aren't getting the necessary sugar that it needs, it starts to slow down. So you start to have symptoms. Now you start to feel funny. Some people get a headache. Some people, the world that you see starts. It's almost like I tell someone that when my sugar was low one time, it was almost like you get to a point where you're in a dreamy state. But the first thing that starts to go is, that starts to go is your concentration. For me, if I'm doing work and I'm reviewing something, and if I start reading the same line over and over and over again, I begin to know something's going on. And but again, this is experience. If you haven't, if you're new to this thing, you have to, these are things that you have to kind of learn over time. And that's why it's good to talk about it, because I can tell you experiences that I had 25 years ago where it took me a minute to figure out how this stuff, all worked. But yeah, you have a lot of symptoms, or you may have to go to the bathroom a lot. And some people have a high. One of the things I used to drink all the time was pop. I love Welch's Grape. This is prior to me being diagnosed, and I used to drink that stuff like water. They had, my wife would ask me, "Why you drink so much pop?" I just have a sweet tooth. I'm all right. But come to find out, all that was precursors to my diabetes. But yes, and that it does work. If my sugar's low, that's why I sit here on my desk. This pop, this is something I try not to drink that, but it's a quick fix where I can monitor it. And if my
Oh,
sugar gets too low, I'll take something to kind of just get it up, because I pretty much know about how much I can drink to kind of regulate my sugars to get it back up. And it's almost immediate. Within a matter of 5 to 10 minutes, it's like coming out of it. The fog is lifted, and you
yeah.
can go from 0 to 60 just like that. It's the
Okay.
weirdest condition you can ever have.
Pre-diabetics. When the doctor says you're pre-diabetic,
Mm-hmm.
people get really afraid. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, a lot of times pre-diabetes, again, um, they go to the doctor, and you start noticing, or even before you go to the doctor, the biggest key for pre-diabetes is what is your resting or fasting glucose level, meaning that where does your sugar top out at when you fasted, when you haven't eaten. And most people, you go to bed, yeah, and then, yeah, late at night, you get up in the morning, your body hasn't really eaten much. Is your sugar elevated, or is it normal?
Mhm.
Is it low? Where does your sugar? And those are the types of little things that they look at. And then they test your blood sugar again. They'll have you eat something, and how is your body processing, being exposed to various carbohydrates or whatever you decide to eat. Is it sending out a lot of insulin there, or if it's a little bit amount of insulin, your sugars are still a little bit high.
Mhm.
Though that's how they can kind of tell that you're running some tendencies there. And then of course there's other things that they test as well. But
Mhm.
those are the main indicator is how is your body responding to the load that is being given. Most food sources, and are
Mhm.
is it taking forever for you to get your sugar down? How much
Mhm.
insulin is your pancreas producing, and that
Mhm.
sort of thing. That kind of gives you an idea. And what's interesting about that is for people whose diabetes, pancreas may be not functioning properly, because that's what type 2 diabetes is. Again, you have release of insulin. It's just not enough to completely resolve the load of sugar that's in your system.
Mhm.
And so what happens over time is that your body, when you eat foods you're not aware, and you keep eating foods that have requires a high amount of insulin production to reduce it, then it's a cycle effect. So it's like sluggish. Okay, then it sends out insulin and try to get it down. But after a while, your pancreas starts to get tired, and that
Mhm.
it's almost chasing itself, and
Mhm.
that's where some of the damage can occur for people with type 2 diabetes.
Now I use um oh my goodness, what do I use, Micah, for my sweetener? I can't even think of it. Um, I use the what do I use? What vegans use? What do we use? I can't think of it. I don't use the sugar cane. I don't use the
Is it cane sugar?
I don't use the cane sugar. It's a liquid that I use. It's a liquid that I use as my sweetener. I can't remember.
Is well,
Your book,
there's a couple
Huh?
split.
what's your book title? The title of your book?
Um,
Oh, do that there. Look that up. Let's talk about
a
it.
matter of the heart, my unexpected
Oh,
journey with
guava,
diabetes.
agave, agave. Is that what you use on?
No, it's what?
A matter of the heart.
Matter of the heart. Okay.
My unexpected, and the reason why I said the matter of the heart is because when you're dealing with diabetes, it really comes down to how bad do you want to deal with this thing. I should say, how bad do you really want it as far as wellness is concerned? Because when you're dealing with a condition where it causes so many ups and downs, it causes one of the things I wanted to talk about, particularly for you, is the psychological component. When I was first stricken with diabetes, I was angry for years. Man, I was an angry black man. Why? Because I did not expect to get it, for one. Two, it was such a miserable condition to have. I mean, I don't wish it on anybody. Even now, after 25 years, I still feel the same way. Obviously, I'm not mad, upset, anything like that. I'm saying I'm able to manage it properly. But I'm just saying that the challenge is, for example, I could come home, I could go to a picnic, totally fine. Everything's managed perfectly. I'm tired, wear out, fall asleep, forget to take my night medicine, wake up, my sugar's up. I mean, little things like that is a challenge, but it's a condition that you have to stay on 24/7. I'm
So
very yes.
okay. So what about me? I use agave. I use agave as a sweetener. Agave.
Okay.
I use that as a sweetener,
Mm-hmm.
or I use nothing in my tea and
Mm-hmm.
my lemonade. I use water, my lemon,
Mm-hmm.
and my honey. No
Mm-hmm.
honey. I used to use honey, but I don't use honey. And I
Honey's not. It's still good to use as a sweetener because of the way it's broken down. Yeah.
it's broken down. I just like
Mm-hmm.
to drink it naturally.
Yeah.
Now,
Yes. Yeah.
I do treat myself to several donuts when I go to Los Angeles, and
So
it's
do
all
I.
they're vegan. It's all vegan. It's all vegan. But let me ask you, the mental component. What
Yes.
does this do to an individual or a family who is dealing with diabetes? How does it impact them? Because this is Mental Health Month for men. How
Yes.
does it impact them, and how can we help them?
It impacts them because again, you are boxed into a corner where you have to be cognizant of how you live your life. You
Mm,
have to be aware of what you eat. You have to be aware of your levels, because as I said before, as my levels start to drop, I think how it's impacted me now, my wife and my children, they know when my sugar's down, because I may be sitting in a room, and they may say something, but I don't communicate very well with them, or I'm just sitting there. I get quiet all of a sudden. I'm not necessarily a quiet person,
mm,
but they'll come in the room. Hey, hey, Dad, you need this, whatever, ever. And I may, just give them a one or two. Then they said, Dad, I think your sugar might be low. Why don't you go, and they'll give me something to get my sugar up. I mean, there's little, but the way it impacts you is it affects your moods, because again, the fluctuations in your sugar affects your cells, affects the brain. So you could be in a great mood, and then your sugar drops, and all of a sudden you're moody. You snap at somebody. What's why, and that was a big transition for my wife, because you become less inhibited, and you'll what normally what will be not a big deal to you now is a big deal. You fly off the handle. Why are you talking to me that? Why you want? What do you want? That sort of thing. And people sometimes, if they don't understand the condition, they'll just think it's you. But I'm like, I didn't mean that. But but it definitely affects your mood, and I think it's important for them to understand and kind of educate themselves, so that they can help you if you are dealing with a hypoglycemic situation where your sugar sometimes is a threshold. Everybody's different, and
mhm,
as your sugar starts to drop,
mhm,
sometimes you may get a little moody. Sometimes you may get emotional. Sometimes you may get frustrated. You'll get frustrated over things that you normally wouldn't get frustrated over. It can actually change your mood. And my wife has many times told me that since I've become a diabetic, I'm a little bit different than when I was before because of all the different matrix of dynamics that exist within this condition.
I can't believe it. This time is already gone. Micah, closing
Oh,
comments, and then Mark, closing comments, and then I'll do the final comments. Micah?
I appreciate you sharing with us and your testimony, especially from a male perspective. I think men oftentimes need to hear from men, and sometimes I think it's really good for
mm,
women to hear from men.
mm,
Just really hear exactly the process in which they go through, and to
mm,
hear someone that has really taken care of their health, so that they can then go to the men in their lives and say,
yeah.
"Listen, I met this man today, and he was talking about this, and he was talking about that, and he was talking about this." Or,
Mm,
"Hey, I want you to watch something and just hear this snippet of this man talking about, what this is similar to what you've been telling me about in
right.
our private conversation." So
Right.
thank you for sharing with us
You're
your testimony, and and your love for chocolate shakes and cake, and how you can't eat it anymore.
right. Yes. Yes. Yes.
But I do salute you for being a black man that is literally putting his health first
Mm,
and understanding the importance of that and sharing that with
yes.
the community. I believe that don't stop doing it. No matter if it
Mm,
feels redundant, I promise
mm,
you someone new will hear it. They will hear it
mm.
in a different way that needs to hear it. Just don't stop sharing the information.
Thank you
Definitely.
for that.
Mark, I want to ask this question.
Mhm.
So, what mindset shift helped you take control of your health?
I think again, longevity.
Mhm.
I know that as a diabetic, if I'm not careful, that not only do they have a lot of what we call it comorbidities, but the fact of the matter is that I have a higher incidence, a higher chance of getting cardiovascular disease just because of the pathophysiology, how it works within the body. You have to watch your pressure, you have to watch your stress, you have to watch all these normal nuances that you have to deal with. As a diabetic, some things are amplified, so I have to make sure that I go out of my way to manage that sort of thing. Now, am I successful with it all the time? Of course not, but at least that's my target. And another thing that I want people to be aware of, and I just want to throw this in before we go because I didn't really talk a lot about it, but it's very impactful in the African American community, is see, I work for a company that develops peripheral vascular disease intervention devices. We develop atherectomy. We develop devices where they're able to go in and open up vessels in your legs. And a lot of people, we are the number one demographic that deals with amputations. And the reality is that
Mm.
amputation should never be considered the first option unless there's immense damage of the tissue loss. That's the only way. If they have blood flow, they have options. And I want people out there to understand, don't ever let the doctor tell you that's your only option, because I know clinicians all over this country that can treat that and get fluid and movement back, black blood flow back in your legs to ward off a lot of these, we call them limb sparing techniques. And that's one of my big emphasis now is amputation prevention. In fact, I'm actually being considered by the to be a board of on the board of directors for the American Diabetics Association. So keep me in prayer on that one.
Oh,
I
that's
just fill out all
wonderful.
the paperwork, but it's big for me now because I see so many of our people that have been has suffered amputations because of this disease, in this condition. And I tell people all the time, I wish I had known, because I know people. I go to these conferences that are they're trying to. A lot of the primary cares aren't as familiar with it, so that they just tell you what they know, and they should send you special vascular specialists, or there's cardiologists that actually do these interventional techniques.
Mhm.
That's critical because
Okay.
we too often are the recipients of amputation, and it just hurts my heart, because now your mortality, is much different, and your outcomes are a lot worse. And once you start removing limbs, then your whole life changes as a result of that. So I tell people all the time. That's what I emphasize when I go. So I'm able, if you're interested in me coming and talking to you, reach
Yes,
out to my website,
yes.
mdbliveconnects.com. I'll be happy to come to your church, health organization, whatever you guys have. And I know firsthand because I work for a company that develops this stuff, so I can tell you exactly what they're doing. And many
Wow.
doctors don't talk about it, but I know
Wow.
about it, and I'm telling everybody. I'm shouting from the mountaintop.
Wow. I thank God for your bravery, your courage, and I definitely, will definitely keep a close eye on my glucose. I
Mm,
am very aware with I do go to the doctors.
mm,
Uh, Mike and I are both breast cancer survivors. We are definitely making sure we are in tune with our health as we go forward to live to be well. I
mm.
want to let's talk about the book. He has an authentic, awesome testimony in the book he has written. Yes, Ayana, very much so. And let's put we have the cover of the book, Al, to put up on the screen. There we go.
Ah,
Matter of the Heart, an unexpected journey with diabetes. And I remember back at camp meeting
yeah.
2024, 2023, all this was coming together. And I'm so proud of you, Mark, because you
Thank you.
followed through your vision, your dream with your family.
Yes.
And shout out to Miss Verona Hodges. Yes, 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 that's my girl, your publicist. But I thank God because we need this information. We need to
Yes.
come together. We need to help
Yes.
our communities. And we must shout it from the mountaintops, or we will lose
Yes.
another generation. So
That's
until
right.
next time, we want to let you
Yeah.
know we're here to help you, bless you, and we'll be back with another broadcast helping men. Come on, men, you've got to get to the doctors. You have to get out and do what is right for your bodies. And this is your
That's right.
time and your time. Until next time, thank you, Brother Mark Brezell, ML6, and remember to always live to be well. God bless you. Good night.
Good night.